Okay, thank you very much, and welcome, welcome to this session where we are going to discuss collaboration. So my name is Heidi Himmanen. I work for the Finnish Transport and Communications Agency, Traficom, and I'm also representing Finland in the 5G experts group under the Nordic Council of Ministers who have facilitated this session. So we are going to discuss 5G knowledge silos and how important it is that various stakeholders, including regulatory bodies, academia, and mobile operators work together, and the value of collaboration. I just want to, in the beginning now, mention the 5G Nordic Baltic monitoring tool project that has been launched yesterday and presented here this morning. That's a part of the activities we have done to try to foster the collaboration, but also Nordregio has hosted 5G events and matchmaking events on the topics of 5G for smart societies, discussing the health sector, 5G in transport and mobility, 5G in industry, and 5G in media and broadcast. But let's go to the panel discussion. Welcome to all of the panelists, and welcome once again to the audience. And I would now ask you to introduce yourselves in a few words before we start the discussion. So first we have Þorgeir Sigurðarson.
Yes, I'm head of the broadband data analytics at the Electronic Communication Office of Iceland, the Icelandic telecom regulator. So I do a lot of work in analytics and working with data from the different operators in Iceland, but I'm also the regulator's representative in a newly started collaboration project where we encourage and authorize the operators in Iceland to collaborate on deployment of high-speed mobile broadband with the goal to have all main roads in Iceland totally covered by high-speed mobile broadband with uninterrupted service everywhere as far as technically possible. The motivation obviously being that we are a very sparsely populated country. We are around 400,000 people living in a country with that's 100,000 square kilometers, so it's around four persons per square kilometer. And so there's always been an issue with getting coverage everywhere in such a sparsely populated country, and we've mostly done like direct state aid in the past, but now we are focusing more on the operators collaborating and sharing cost in deployment and to solve this issue with coverage in rural areas.
Yeah. Thank you, very interesting, and we will get back to this project. And then we have Bård Reien, please.
Yes, my name is Bård Reien. I work for the Norwegian Communications Authority, NCOM, and my responsibilities there include the regulation of the non-public local 5G networks, and as well as many other things. I also represent NCOM in the CEPT ECC group, as well as in the Radio Spectrum Committee in the European Commission. Anyway, the story that I was hoping that we could share some experience from today is our 5G spectrum situation in Norway. So when we, a couple of years ago, auctioned out the 3.6 gigahertz band for 5G, we received complaints from the industrial sector that they didn't get any of this spectrum. After all, 5G has all long been marketed as like the mobile solution for industrial applications. So why didn't they get any? So our response to this was to dedicate a separate frequency band, namely the 3.8 to 4.2 gigahertz band. And so we started working on the regulatory regime for that. And we actually launched this at the beginning of 2023. in January, so now it's possible to get 5G licenses for local and non-public 5G networks, which we thought would be, we thought we'd be run down by industry, but that hasn't happened. So through a political initiative, we have launched sort of a platform for discussions with industry, telecoms industry, called the 5G Industry Forum, where we are trying to get the different players from the different sectors to share experiences. And, so hopefully I'll be able to share some experiences from that through this discussion.
That would be interesting, and we have the European activities also ongoing to harmonize this band in Europe for local networks, 3.8 to 4.2 gigahertz, so it's very relevant for all of us. Thank you very much, and then we go to Mikael Nilsson, please.
Thank you, Heidi. My name is Michael Nilsson, and I work as a product manager at a very suitable center for the topic today, Center for Distance Spanning Technology. And the topic today is overcoming 5G challenges. What could be better? This is located at the Luleå University of Technology up north in Sweden, close to the Arctic Circle, not so far from the Finnish border. And as I learned in the previous session here in the same room, actually two keywords was mentioned. It was rural. Somebody said that 40% of the landmass in Europe is populated by people with less than 20 people per square kilometer. In my area, it's 3 persons per square kilometer. So you can imagine that overcoming distances is a driving scenario for several years. And what also was mentioned was this GSM story, the really true European success story when all came together and set the standard before everybody else. But anyway, in 1989, I remember Telia Research in Luleå actually did the first GSM phone call in a lab scale. The Finns were, of course, first with a commercial one, but that's another story. The driving scenario for 30 years has been overcoming distance for different branches and industries, of course. And to give you some examples, and I will expand on that later on, I guess, and hope. 10 years ago, the boom was data centers in the north, using the green energy and so on. Nowadays, it's the green transition, the green steel. But it's not only the green transition. I think the better word is twin transition, because it will not be green transition without digital transition hand in hand. And there is a lot of new research driving out of this when you go big scale, producing green steel and so on and so on. So we try to work very applied, close to industry and companies, big and small ones. That's why they like us, I guess, over the years, and try to make improvement and give results very fast, close to the industry.
Thank you. That's very interesting. So you're actually the facilitator of the collaboration. Very important. And next we hear from Oliver Leck.
Yes, hello.
Tell your perspectives on collaboration and on the topic.
Yes, I'm Oliver from Estonia, working in Telia, one of the leading operators in this region, in Nordic and Baltics. And my team responsibility is actually to roll out and plan and optimize those networks, those 5G networks that we're talking here about, to make the customer experience the best in there. So actually those nodes, like the one in the middle of here. And there's been several of you have now already mentioned that about the sparse population in this region, in the Nordics and also in the Baltics. And I will add one extra dimension to this. Yes, it's sparsely populated, but when looking at the graphs from the OECD, this is the region where most data per mobile subscription has been used. It's sparsely populated and a lot of data. We can be proud of this, but also it's a challenge. Our southern neighbors just surpassed long-time leaders Finland in this, but basically all the countries, Lithuania, Iceland, Estonia, Denmark and Sweden are following here. And what I will talk about is the cooperation with you within Telia. It's sparsely populated, it's a lot of data, and it just default settings for the networks is not good enough. So within Telia, we share a lot how we build the networks, how we optimize the networks, what sorts of features do we need. We learn from each other and then roll it out for the other countries too, that we have some good experience all over in Telia networks in the region. And we'll talk about the legislative part later on. It's super important, as I believe. And then maybe mentioning, or what is really important, I mean, is to talking to people. Events like this is super, super important, but maybe not even more important, but the same as important is to talk to your clients as a mobile operator. We can't invent what they need. We don't know about details about medicine or factories, or we don't know those things. We need to talk about them, and they don't know the details about communication engineering. They don't know what we can offer to them. So it's learning from each other. So this kind of angle is super important too. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. And you have also geographically quite wide perspective from the Nordic Baltic region.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. And then we go to Elina Lidere, please.
Yes, thank you. Hello. I'm Innovation Ecosystem Lead for a leading mobile operator here in Latvia, LMT. And as an operator, we work not only on telco infrastructure and services, but also we have a team quite huge and work as an IT company as well. We develop new IT services and solutions also for export and here for industry and public sector. And regarding the cooperation in Nordic and Baltics, we are very much involved in a lot of EU R&D projects and also established a lot of test sites here in Latvia to collaborate with local ecosystem, also the international one. We even have Estonian network in one of our test sites, that is a mobility test site in race here in Riga, where we can test cross-border solutions, and we are also building the digital twin of that one race to really look for new autonomous car solutions and traffic management in augmented CCAM project. And also there is the same place where the Estonian network as well as our network is there. And we work not only on mobility, and we do also drone projects. We are looking also on smart city solutions. And also a lot of defense projects as well, as we have our neighbor Russia, and we are the NATO and EU border with Russia. So we are very much involved also looking for the 5G capabilities for resilience. And for next week, for example, we will have also 5G experiment held by NATO, as we have also a 5G defense test site in military base here in Latvia with Nokia and Ericsson standalone 5G networks there. And multiple scenarios and demonstrations will be tested for future possibilities to use to strengthen also defense with 5G.
Okay, thank you, Elina, and very lot going on in different verticals. So that's very impressive. So now we have the regulators here, we have the research, and we have the operators represented in this panel. And let's discuss a little bit about the roles of the different players in the collaboration, and also please state if you see some obstacles that we have to come over. Let's start with the regulatory agencies. What is the role of the regulatory agencies in mitigating knowledge gaps and fostering competence building? So how do you think that the regulatory agencies can act as a facilitators for 5G development? So Thorger, maybe we start with you.
Yeah, well, we do have a legal obligation to promote like collaboration and between these parties and in the fields that we are connected to, but it's also a bit of a challenge also because we are also regulate the competition in the market, and these are obviously competitors. So it's a bit of a treacherous road to like where you're going over the line, you know, in terms of disrupting market equilibrium, and it comes down on the consumers. But we have mostly focused this on this project I talked about earlier in like I said, rural areas where there's market failure and not competition. So so that's where we've mostly focused on in terms of that. But in general terms, but we do try to like connect different parties from, you know, innovators and telecom operators to get them talking, to like foster this collaboration and innovative efforts in general. But as a small regulator, it can be difficult to like devote a lot of resources to it. So it's mostly something that comes to, when someone comes to us, we try to guide and lead them forward.
Yeah, so guidance and leadance, and just to understand the many roles of the operator.
Yes.
Yeah. And then board, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, my take on it is that as a regulator, you know, there are several things we can do in addition to what my colleague here mentioned. I think it's important that, for instance, like in Norway, where we have dedicated a special part of the spectrum for industry, it's important that we actually provide spectrum to the companies that need it at a price that's not prohibitive, to use. Also, I think it's important to encourage or ensure a healthy competition among the public mobile operators, because a lot of industrial applications is probably not going to be solved by a private local 5G network, but it will probably be solved by, like you mentioned, the public networks, through different mechanisms like network slicing and whatever. So I think that's another thing we can that's also an obligation for us to ensure a healthy competition. And another thing is the international work that you mentioned, Heidi, in harmonization, I think is also important because harmonization will enable or will provide more equipment on the market, better competition, more innovation to bring up the use, right? And finally, what we've done, as I briefly mentioned earlier, is to have a common meeting place between the different players, like telecoms, industry, vendors, industry sector, and regulators, because we need to sort of raise the mutual understanding of the needs and requirements and the opportunities and possibilities from both sides, right?
Yeah.
So I think that would be my summary, I think, of the things that we can do as a regulator.
Yeah, very good. And I think what you brought up was also many of the traditional roles as we have as regulators.
Yes.
They are very important also to foster like future innovations and future networks. Just want to mention what we did in Finland in addition to the traditional roles. Well, of course, we are trying to give radio licenses for testing to promote innovation. So it's very easy actually to get a fixed short-term license for testing. But we have also established a 5G momentum ecosystem for all interested parties. This has been running since 2018, and we have a huge network of different interested parties to share experience on what you can do with 5G, and for the verticals to discover what they could use 5G for. But now I want to hear from the other panelists on the role of regulators. So Michael, let's start with you.
since you asked about regulators as facilitator, I was thinking also the previous session here, they brought up this actually showstopper that regulation in Europe stops or hinders innovations to some extent. So I was just thinking spontaneously that regulators in all countries then, why don't you set up a research program? So you, in parallel, follow projects that you have funded to some extent to follow it in parallel, so you don't lose time in the end when this new innovation comes up and it will not be launched in Europe because of some reason, but somewhere else. But getting closer in the collaboration with the regulators in an early stage. And one way is to work shoulder to shoulder in a research program, for example. I don't know if it exists, but maybe.
I'm actually doing that. so I'm personally involved in many research programs and helping out. And also as I'm co-chairing the radio spectrum policy group work on 6G in Europe. So we are working very closely with the research and to listen on the research and development projects to guide us on how we should work on and what will be the requirements for spectrum and new types of spectrum regulation and access to spectrum in the future. So yes, you are absolutely right. We should work closely together, and maybe we have something to improve there. We have some. Yeah. We could improve on this. I think, definitely. As you said,
a joint Nordic program. You know, as a start.
And actually, there is many research going on that is not maybe taking regulation also so much into account. And I see that personally, that it would be better to work also for the researchers to understand the impact of regulation in this very regulated field. So what's the view of the operators?
Yeah, I mean, the licensed spectrum, we all mention spectrum because it's super important. The licensed spectrum is a cornerstone for a mobile operator, and without that, it's difficult to operate, right? So, but it's not just a regulator to auction the spectrum; it's also to maintain, and then because it's when we go higher and higher in speeds and load more data into those hertzes there's a limited number of those. We have to operate them really goodly because among the different operators, among the competitors also, radio frequencies don't care about the country borders. Just limiting that in a border area means that there's no coverage for the people who happen to live in the border area, right? So, and mobile communications is prone to interferences. Phones are getting less and less power, and we understand, and I want them to be, right? But that means also that, and we want to have it be power efficient, but that means that it's open to all sorts of interferences, and we want to share information with the regulator and get their help solving those issues in the areas. That's one area maybe, and the other, looking at the regulator more into wide broadly the legislative background or the area is the site infrastructure itself. I was just listening in the other panel, the Open Run forum, and to my surprise, they ended up talking about site acquisition. But yes, as a mobile operator and as a worker in this field, site acquisition is super difficult. It's the most difficult part in this process whatsoever. Building towers into countryside, in the cities, the rooftops, it's easy to lose a site. But it's very difficult to get a site. And how do you build this connectivity when you don't have sites? Everybody's talking that yeah, it's a critical infrastructure, but we need to build it somewhere. So you need a good legislative background for keeping those important sites and to give this wide area coverage.
Yes, very good point to lift up this, and we regulators should help on this.
Yeah, and then I mean, in the countries. And I truly believe that local people should have the right to decide what happens in their neighborhood. But when it's municipality to municipality, very different angles and different approaches, and it's for an operator to give wide area coverage in different areas, very difficult. And by the end of the day, everybody's unhappy when there's no sites and no coverage.
Yeah. Okay, Elina, any reflections?
I really emphasize your point about the facilities, because it's really like everyone wants connectivity. We see the bright future, what will bring those new technologies, but no one wants the base station in their building or they
should be invisible.
Yes, we do need connectivity, but they are in the neighboring, the base station for the neighbors. But we actually here in Latvia have talked and worked a lot with a local ecosystem and also regulators, also regarding the legislation. Actually, what could be done, and at least for public sector buildings, I think there anyway sooner or later every country will need to actually evaluate how they help the operators also to get those places, because if we want this connectivity, there will be need for more and more base stations, and it is a problem, at least for us as a leading operator, and we are like Latvia is a #1 by mobile consumption. Mobile internet consumption in the world right now, it's really hard actually to build the capacity. There are no places where to put the base stations. And also sometimes what we saw that, and that is also a regulatory issue, that the new buildings are built and they don't actually take into account that they're also in the building they will need the connectivity, and then in the process of building and also accepting it to exploitation, there need also to be actually the regulatory things that you should take care also about the mobile network. Otherwise, it's a nice building just with no mobile connectivity there, and you need to somehow afterwards find the ways how actually you again reconstruct everything.
Yeah.
And that is also for huge public actually buildings as well happening. So it's totally, yeah, I agree with you that this need to be considered, especially for Nordic and Baltic countries where we are leading in Europe by mobile internet consumption. That means also that we will need more and more base stations because people need more and more data throughputs as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we have the small cell regulation from EU, so that's one step on the way maybe to help from the regulatory perspective. Well, I myself think that technology is nice, and we could show it, but maybe everybody doesn't like the visible base stations. Okay, good points. And let's turn to research and what do you think, Michael? What is the role of the universities in facilitating the collaboration and especially maybe innovation?
I think a very important role in our case, I cannot tell exactly how other universities are working, but to take initiatives, be a driver in the region. And not only, of course, it's about education and research when it's a university, but you take on a bigger role to develop the region as well. So just a quick example, 10 years ago, when this data center boom happened in the north for a reason, there was no regional or national data center strategy. So the university took that initiative and together with others made up a strategy for the region to actually go into this direction. This is a typical initiative nobody expected, but you can do it if you want to do it. Just a reflection of what you said about the base stations. It's kind of mirroring what's happening with the wind power mills. Everybody needs green electricity, but no one wants a mill in sight. So that is the same scenario for these mobile stations. But another good example is exactly what's happened last month also, that in Swedish it's called Samhällsmaster. What could that be? Societal mobile base station towers. The initiatives came together with people living in Archipelago, the harbor, those in the marine naval sector, and the university. So there is now a tower on an island in the Archipelago. There are thousands of islands in the north. And in the spring, there will be some base station there also. But these kind of initiatives you don't expect, but we can see from results we have done in other projects, since we have the rural challenges, we need to provide not we, but others need to provide services to the inhabitants, health, education, whatever. So those kind of scenarios is part of our daily work. And what my work and my colleagues is all about is to find ideas, to find the suitable calls, to find the funding, set up the team, hopefully write a nice proposal and win. And then when we win, me and my colleagues will kind of act as coordinator managers to run all this. So let the research do what they're best at, research, and others what they're best at. So we try to unburden a lot of other people with the administration, all that, and know what's happening in Brussels and work programs here and there and whatever. Seed opportunities. That is really an important role for university, I think.
Yes, so in a way you are trying to overcome the challenges and facilitate the work of the others. Very good. Yes?
I agree with you, and I see in the 3.8 to 4.2 gigahertz initiative for local 5G. We have issued quite a few base station licenses already, and a good number of them are from universities and research organizations in Norway. And they, like you said, they already got test licenses before we actually launched the regulation, just to basically start innovation and research on this in this area.
Yes, very important. Okay. And then let's go to the role of the operators and your perspective. So what challenges have you encountered? You already lifted up the challenges with the base stations, and Michael has a solution in his region for this. Very nice.
Good.
So what about the collaboration with industry players, for example, and the verticals? Can you highlight what do you think is the operator's role, and how do you see the challenges in this?
So, in addition to the previous topics that we talked about, I would emphasize the link towards our customers, to the end users. Two important areas, I think, they're building trust towards them. You just can't go to a factory and say that here's your 5G solution, use it. Just use it because it's great, right? You need to build a trust, and it takes time and effort to do that. You really need to be in a good contact with your customer, with this actual manufacturing company, medicine company, whatever. That's super important that they will be open to this. And the second part in this is how innovative this company is, or this person is, to those new approaches. So therefore, yeah. And when we have some good examples in this, how we've done that, and how we've seen that an innovative client comes to you and is open to this. But the other is you have to build that trust, and then to get them open to this. Of course, in Estonia, we have an Ericsson factory in Estonia. Where else do you experiment? Where else do you have the ability to do that? So we, together with Ericsson, we were in a funny situation where Ericsson was the provider for us, the vendor for us. We were the operator, and then they were also a client to us.
Okay.
But it's a very good place where to learn something to sell to the other customers, or to give to other customers as well. So they have a private network. They do really great stuff there. Been there, augmented reality, troubleshooting, self-driving machines that take components to the lines and so on. And maybe one area where we saw really an innovative client of ours turning to us, and maybe emphasize the part of that we need to talk to people. We just can't imagine what they think is one company who's renting electrical cars, and what they do is it's not self-driving car, it's a remotely driven car. So they have in their office they have drivers who are like playing video games, but actually driving a car in a city. Now they're in Tallinn, Tartu, and I just recently heard that they are now in Helsinki also. And everybody in this self-driving or distance driving area, I think about the latency is super important, that we need to be really, really low latency. And then we asked them that really, that's super important. They said, yeah, but your latency is good enough. I mean, reaction time of a person is in seconds. Video processing takes majority of your latency is super, but what they need is good coverage around the city, and that latency is sufficient enough everywhere.
Yeah.
That's important. And there we come again to the new sites, right, or the site acquisition part, that we have a good coverage everywhere.
Yeah, so to understand
You
the
can't
use
just
case.
eliminate some areas. You can't drive there because we don't have
Sure.
coverage there. Yeah.
Yeah, good. So additions from you, Elina, on the vertical, on collaboration with verticals. Yes, you have a lot of experience from this.
Yes, what we saw that it's from as we work on lots of R&D initiatives, and we don't by ourselves we will not be able actually in different verticals to build the new solutions. We need really the academic sector and policy sector also to come together and talk together how we can do it and what are the needs. So we, from an operator side, really invest a lot in ecosystems. We like, for example, those test sites we have. This is also the open spaces. We invite startups. Also, we work with universities and invite also policymakers to really look how in future could be things done and really experiment and demonstrate the new technologies yeah, and in addition, also those EU projects R&D we have, we see also internationally the ecosystem challenges because with the technologies there are lots of features, but in industry, in different kind of industries, they don't understand it so well or don't see the practical use of it. So the work with ecosystem really to talk with each other and understand the possibilities and the needs, that is very important. And for example, when we build this initiative about 5G maritime, how to actually cover, for example, Baltic Sea with a 5G network, that brings really huge ecosystem. It's not only about the ports and the ships, what are their needs. It's really not so easy actually to get to know all the things what could be actually done with the mobile network, because you need to think a lot about it also from industry side, what could be benefits, how they can transform their actually all the operations and get the benefits, but also from a regulation side. If you see look at the Baltic Sea, it's a lot of countries all around. If you want to cover with one 5G network, is super many challenges because every country has different regulations, also different frequency use, and so on.
Yes, thank you. That's a very good example on how we all should work together to accomplish such a thing, but also for the users to understand how they could utilize the new technology, maybe do new things with the new technology and not only do the old things with the new technology. Yes, okay. So we have like one or 2 minutes for if you have a question in the audience, please raise your hand, or do we have a question online?
Yes, I have one question to the panel. What is still the thing you didn't mention, but we should in this discussion? Is there anything? Yeah, what about this? Why we were not talking about this suddenly? Mm-hmm. Because, of course, we are following our name of the panel, but is there anything we missed?
Yes?
Short comment then. What I didn't mention is maybe joint test beds. I've seen the struggle when we have a test bed in Luleå where we invite companies to come and test their services and products before going to market. And of course, we were happy to set up a project with our Finns friends in Oulu University. They had their own network in the university owned, mm-hmm. which we don't have. And we thought it's going like this. No, it will not be that easy because of different reasons. So doing tests in the Baltic area would be one way of trying to, it foster collaboration, innovation, mm-hmm. and see how it could work over physical land borders also. So I didn't mention that, but now I do it.
That's a very good example.
So it means that Heidi has done a great job. So she has covered everything. But
don't underestimate the power of the people's innovation power. I mean, together you can do it. Small countries together.
Together, yeah.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Then there's a question. If you could choose where to invest few tens of millions of public money, what would be the single most important thing to make 5G available to everyone? Angela is asking.
Okay, thanks, Angela. Who wants to take this? Maybe the operators?
Yeah. I think, of course, and we talked a lot about the sparse population that we have. It's sparsely populated, but we still have the cities. There it tends to be better. So public funding to those countryside areas. There was discussion about the rural areas, to the infrastructure in there, I'd say.
Keep everybody with us in this digitalization.
And I mean, it's a mobile network. We all move there, and we all want to have. It's not just the locals there, but we all want to use that.
So, are you saying that would help to make them less sparsely populated areas?
I'd say do, yeah.
All right, because that's the first thing you find out. Is there a coverage for the mobile data, for example?
Yeah, and how good quality is that? Yeah.
All right, anything else to add? Yes?
There is also something that I think not all have understood. When you go from 4G to 5G, you expect everything to be better, in a way. But what not all, in average at least, know is that you need an outdoor and an indoor system. So, yeah, there are good examples to, let's say, tell how these improvements, step by step, will make an improvement. But you have to do something extra that you couldn't do before. Because inside there is another system. If you don't have that, you have to go outside in the freezing cold, maybe. Not that popular.
Yeah, very good. Exactly.
That's an interesting take. Okay, thank you. Anything else to add? Good, then one more thing is, yes?
No, go on.
One more thing is, how can 5G ecosystem encourage the sharing of anonymous data across industries while respecting privacy concerns, enabling the development of valuable insights and applications? Raja says that's always the question. Everyone holds his or her data and not sharing it.
New perspectives? What?
Well, I suppose building your own private 5G network, then you have everything in-house or in your own cloud could be a way to do it, if I understood the question correctly.
It could be the other way around. So let's share the information and data, although it is tricky, so we would probably have better collaboration.
So how can we anonymize the data but still use it?
I see, okay.
You have anything, Michael?
Yeah, I have good examples of that. When you talk about data, you think about AI. AI is nothing without data. And we have run into several good ideas, good projects, and then the company or a small company realize, okay, but it's not my data. I have to ask you, do you allow me to use it? And they no, because it's, you're not sure. Well, there is no innovation because all this AI Act and all this, you can be up with a fine to pay something if you handle it wrongly. A big company can do it, but the small ones, they cannot afford it, maybe. So you have to be careful. Data is also kind of very sensible. It could be a showstopper handled wrong.
But it's holding us back in all the industries. For example, there's no one ID card you can use for all the possible institutions because they all hold data within. Yeah. And we still have like 50 loyalty cards carrying around.
Definitely.
Sorry.
And we have an example from Finland also. We discussed this automation of maritime. Why can't we use the ships also as sensors and share their data? We don't need to have weather stations everywhere, but they could measure and share. But there seems to be obstacles in sharing data. Yes.
But is there any chance we are going to change that? It's getting like worse because of the regulations.
Elina has a solution.
I mean, I think it needs to be also some added value from sharing, because sometimes also lots of industries and policymakers, they are just asking to share information and data, but actually in the end they don't use it or really don't. You need actually also added value from what you actually will get from the sharing of data.
So like selling it?
It's not only the selling it, but it's, the data by itself sometimes shows something, but it's not really useful. So you need some new applications or really the AI, some things, how actually also population or society actually benefits from data sharing, not only just sharing by itself. It's just nice to look.
Or not only your data, but combining this to other data together and see bigger trends in there.
You see the benefits why I share my data and I get something back.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, Heidi, for moderation. And round of applause to the panelists.
Applause to the panelists.